Grand Rising family and good day. It's Shay Seeking, and this is Not Your Mama's Bible Study, along with a little bit of his story lied. So today we're going to take a little breeze walk through Genesis. I'm working on a big project, but in the meantime, I wanted to do something like this because it kind of just was screaming out to me. Okay. As I was doing my research. Okay. So again, I'm not here to tell you what it is, what it ain't. I'm just sharing with you guys what it looks like to me. Look at my view as being a holy spiritual awakening. Okay. And for that reason, we are taking a second look at the biblical text along with history or his story. Okay. So there's lots of stories that correlate with things that happen in real life history. Okay. Here in the Americas, when we're talking about the Old Testament. Okay. So what I'm basically saying is that the story of colonization is tied in and overlapping or underneath the the uh, the religious, because on this channel we separate the two. Although they look like they're hand in hand, the Bible is what it is. It says what it says. You can do research and you can find some amazing things once your mind's eye is open. Okay? So you're not using a religious aspect in dogma in order to form your opinion as to what you're reading here. You're just using wisdom, knowledge, common sense, discernment, and other tools that are already within you, along with external tools that go along with this. Sometimes they don't, okay? In order to uncover the true meaning of what we're reading here in this biblical text. So that is someone that would have had to spend an extensive amount of time doing research on American history throughout colonization, along with knowing the fact that there were so-called black people or Aboriginal people, Amerindians, whatever you want to call them, here, Aborigines, Origines, whatever you want to call them, here in America prior to 1492. And that the God of creation, okay, that we're reading about in Genesis, is just here speaking in terms of his creation on top of a prior nation or an ancient. Can we look at that maybe in a sense? An ancient or primitive, okay, meaning prior to, okay, a group that was already there. This is them building their construct or their caste system on top of that nation and its people. That is them taking the land to have and to hold along with the people, sent here by kings and things like this, lords and things of this nature. Okay, so the presence of God, I don't believe in the whole God in heaven and the devil in hell. They're right here. Okay, they're right here within the caste system working against Aboriginal people, okay, or early inhabitants of a land, the earliest inhabitants of a land. How about we say it that way? Okay, so since we're looking at it that way, and we're looking at it that way not only because we want to, it's because etymology and the Bible says to. But again, this is for someone who has already detached themselves from this so-called world, okay? And they already have eyes to see several different levels of this, dealing with presidents and the Bible and amalgamation, native peoples, indigenous peoples, and aboriginal peoples, knowing what lords really are and kings and using the true, okay, definitions of these words, okay? So today we're going to go ahead and go into Genesis a little tiny bit, and we're going to talk about the term earth, because the earth is speaking about so-called black people. If we want to just put it on in layman's term, if we want to go to put it in the easiest terms for people to interpret and what it actually says here in order to untangle things, because we cannot go any further if we don't know who we are and where we come from. So if you want to keep believing that most of us came from Africa, do so. But what I'm telling you is that is going to alter the truth for you. Okay? So now we're talking about the earth here, right? The earths. Okay? So it says original word. This is it. I'm not going to go into that because you don't really need to. A lot of people, and see, that's the whole thing about that being the author of confusion and speaking in parables and using crafty counsel and using different languages to tangle things up, using a dictionary that dictates your visionary of what you're actually seeing. Okay, using the fact that in early times, people, regular citizens, servants, or people could not even have a Bible. It was only for one man, the pastor or the leader of that pack, to keep that text and give religious dogma and to I guess what you might say, consume the minds and give people a perception as to what we're talking about before you even had a chance to read the text. Okay, and use your own understanding to see it. Okay, so this is where you're going to have cloudy judgment here. This is where you're going to be upset at me and want to write rude things to me in the comment section. But again, I see a lot of us are on different levels when it comes to this awakening. I just see myself on a different, deeper level, and I'm sure there are some people that are even deeper than me. Okay. And those people will not be making it mainstream and having millions of followers. They're more than likely going to be those that are kept under wraps. Okay. Okay. And then here is it. Here it said earths, like we just read up here, and it says earth, land. Okay. And then it says a prime. And I look at primordial or primitive or prior or pre. You know something that was before, okay, or like a before the root word there, you put something, a pre something in front of it. Okay. So then you have earth, land, and then it gives all these references as to what is speaking of, in a sense. And then we go down here, and we see that the earth, whole earth, opposed to part. Okay, earth opposed to the earth opposed to the heavens and skies. Again, the earth would represent the aboriginal or the cast, the outcast, which ab means that you've been cast away. Okay, so these are the outcasts of the earth, who are truly the earth, but have been set apart so that someone else can fill the earth and pretend like, or give you the perception that it was them. Okay, so then it says, or the opposed to the heaven and the sky. And like I always show you guys the caste system. When you think about that pyramid, what I'm speaking of when we're talking about the sky and the heavens, anything that's in the heavens would be a living creature that God created and blew breath into. In Genesis, that is their creation on top of a nation that was a primitive or prior people before the construct of religion and that type of God came into presence. And when that was done, most of this information, okay, was forced to the people, and they had no choice with torture and genocide and all other matters they used in order to indoctrinate these people's minds with this religious dogma and ways of seeing, by cherry picking and not really giving people the full understanding as to what the word was saying. Okay, and this is why some of those Bibles you have will say that it is only to be studied in church or something that pertains to that in the front of the Bible. The older they get, it'll say that only for church use or something like that. Okay, because again, this was for those that were in that house of God to give this instructions and information to the people that probably didn't even understand exactly what they were saying. And that's what we're dealing with today on a different level. Okay. So again, the heaven and the skies is where the servants of that house reside. Okay. And again, we are the bottom foundation or the ground or the earth. Okay. That has been cast out of its standing and someone else put in charge, in control or ownership or landlord or whatever you want to say over the people and the land. Okay. So the earth opposed to the sky and heavens. Okay. So earth equals inhabitants of earth. Okay. So the oldest form of that will be an aboriginal, which are usually darker view people that were all over this so-called plain, not just in Africa. There was darker races everywhere, and they have been flooded by other nations that are lighter than them, and turned into something else that is not even recognizable to this day. But in order to get a better understanding, and the part that they left out in your history books in school, which is just another place for them to indoctrinate, and we think it's educate, okay, but indoctrinate the minds of the masses and their children for generations and generations, okay. So the oldest would be the Aboriginal, okay, or the Aborigines. And then the next people to come in would be the stragglers that came in and mated with those particular people. They could be of darker hue and they could be of lighter hue. But those form the indigenous peoples, because they are the offspring of the earth. And this Bible clearly says it here. Okay, see, a lot of us are stuck in that King James, and it's the most confusing Bible ever. Okay, this Living Bible is the truth. Okay, so let's keep going. But again, what can be the truth if you are not even in the mindset to understand what's going on? Okay, so inhabitants of the earth. Okay. Oh, and then a native. A native is just someone that is tied to the land because they came there, both their mother and father, more than likely, and they made it in that land and created these people, and makes them native because they're attached to the land because they were actually born there. These are definitions. I did not make them up. Okay. So we're going to go into district, region, tribal territory, piece of ground, inhabitants, land, okay, and Leviticus and other books. And again, just because they give you a couple references doesn't mean that these are the only scriptures that reference to this. Okay, that's another way of giving you something, say, oh, it's a concordance, it helps you understand the Bible. But then again, no, well, because they're not giving every single verse that is attached to that way of to those terms. Okay, so used even of Sheol. Now this says something else right here, but I'm thinking that this is talking about the Sheol. Okay, which if you go ahead and look up the dome earth, it is that darkness that is down at the bottom. That is what the house of God is residing on. Okay, or that pyramid that we would look at when we look at the caste system. Okay, so it says let's see, inhabitants, land, okay, ground, surface, soil. Be careful when you're reading these terms in this book, because we are talking about more than likely. And again, I don't have to tell you. If you just go ahead and know this because they never told you this in the first place, and then you start making reference, your soul, your body, mind, soul, your temple will allow you to see who and what we're exactly talking about. You don't really even, you just need the concordance to know that that's what it is. Okay, and then you discern where you need to place it. Because again, even if someone thinks that God wrote the Bible or had somebody write it word for word, he didn't do the concordance. Okay, so again, this is another way to give you something but also take it away, so that you never get a full understanding. Okay, people of the land, of non-Israelites. Now again, I'm not just saying these things. I've already done the research, and this is why I'm just letting you guys know to look into it and then make your own decision. Because again, I'm not never here to tell you what it is, what it ain't. I'm just sharing what it looked like to me. Okay, so non-Israelites. Okay, now the Israelites would be a form of a indigenous, which is not the original but offspring of the original, or a native population. Hence, Israel would be Israel, and to be light, that is a certain, it's like a compound word, okay? And that would be something, it's like ish or it, or, do you see what I'm saying? So these are not the actual people. It is something that sprung from those people, okay? Whether it be indigenous, which is tied to the land, or native, which is tied to another land that left its mother and father and came here to have and to hold or wed the land and the people that are attached to it. Okay, so this is referring to, in these scriptures, is referring to people that don't have Israelite blood, more than likely, or wine, okay, in them. Okay, and that might be called the dry land in some senses in the Bible, because it's a land that did not want to be tilled or flooded. And Noah's flood is nothing but a making reference to Now, there could have been some form of a flood of that notion, but no one can seem to find it and all these other things. But what I'm telling you, it's a literal thing when certain people came here and flooded the nation. Okay. And we're talking particular in different other uh, land masses, but right now we're talking about the Americas. Okay. So it says Genesis 23, 7, 12, and 13. Okay, so these are the ones that I'm going to take you into now. Let's just look at a couple of these. Country plane level, land of living. Yep. Okay. Okay, so ends of the earth. Okay. And then is almost wholly late. Okay. Okay. Wait. The various petty divisions of Canaan afterward unite under Israel's control. Okay. Okay. All right. So once I've given you that reference, let's go through here. So God created the heavens and the earth. The heavens is we have to pull it up. And sorry to those of you who have already been here for a while. But the heavens just mean that it is the house of God. It's where God resides. Okay. So let's see. And if the Israelites are God's people, that means that he is the creator of that particular type of people. Okay. Okay. Even if they were already his people and stayed his people when they came here, foreign, and they were put here for reign. And that's in order to reign on the earth, not RAIN like it says in some of these books, but to reign, to have control of ownership of. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and look at this. And they've been raining on your parade the whole time. And this is why I always tell you, this is why everyone else can come to the Americas and have something here, thinking they know something about them and can tell them what they all these opportunities here in America, and they allow people to come over here and put their boots on your neck and take from what was yours in the first damn place. Okay, light, or maybe the house of Israel, where these are the heathen. These are the heathens and Saracens that the papal bulls and things, and the heathen that the Bible talks about that, are distasteful, unsatisfactory, worthless. These are those people. These are the meaning out or cast out, originals. Okay, so even though these commoners, peasants, and servants of the house of God are still the same thing as you, this is so-called white people, so-called native peoples, okay, and some indigenous peoples or groups. Okay, this is where they reside. You, on the other hand, are the thing that is holding this firmament up. And here is the enmity between their seed, okay, and her seed, the land. This is why they make reference to America as a woman. This is their bride, okay? This was the bride, and they got to keep the booty that came along with it and the children. And then they will be your daddy now. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so let's keep going. So let's make reference to he created the heavens, okay, and the earth. Now, like I keep telling you, don't think that it was only people of lighter, pale skin that came here in order to do these things. Whether they were willing or unwillingly, paying a debt or whatever it would be, there were some darker viewed nations that came here as well. Okay? Whether they were running from persecution from someone else, whoever, whatever, this was going on. Okay, so he created this on the earth. Okay, whether he drove them darker races here in order to mix by persecution, Same thing with so-called white slaves that we never talk about here in American history. Okay, that I think some of those people were taken in by some of the Aboriginal nations, and this is the real people that were taken out of Egypt or slavery by the 1775, the acts of 1774 through 1776, by their God. Okay, which probably were caught coming here trying to plant their seed or seed the land, okay, or flood portions of the land or the earth, okay. So then we're going to talk about the fact that the earth was formless and void. This means that this landmass was filled with darker view people, whether we're talking about South America and the southern portions of America or not. The warmer climates here were filled with darker people. Canada came down way lower in some of these older maps that I'm seeing. Okay, I wasn't there, so I don't know, but I'm just trying to show you that it came all the way down to like where Illinois would be. Okay, so and it went all the way across from east to west. Okay, so it was formless and void. So again, without form. So there was nothing filling it yet. This is why next he is going to do the things that he did, because he did not like the darkness. He wanted to make it light. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Okay. So the dry land earth. Okay. Now he made the dry land earth. Again, this is darker view people that did not want to be flooded, tilled, or have anything to do with this. And those are most of the people that got killed or put into slavery. Okay. And the gathering is going to say of the seas, of the waters, he called seas. Well, maybe it'll say it right here. Okay. And the gathering together. God, the dry, okay. So it says God, the dry land, and the gathering of the waters. Okay. So again, the waters were gathered up from anywhere to do with this and placed in the house of God or in that realm. These are the living creatures that he blew the breath into that are here. This is why they say that the so-called terms like the misnomers such as African American and black and stuff are misnomers, and it also makes you not a people or not a nation. It makes you property. Okay, so this is why, again, everyone else can come here and prosper but you. Okay, so the gathering together this, and this is why these groups, like it says in this Bible, are the maritime families or the maritime people, because maritime admiralty law has to do with the governing of the waters. That is these groups of people. Okay, so let's keep going. So the dry land gathered, okay, gathering of the waters, okay. And Noah's flood is referencing to water because those are the people that came here and flooded the nation and took over the lands. And they put them in certain places in order to do so, and gave them different resources in order to do so. Okay. So let the earth sprout. Let the earth bring forth. God sprout the earth, vegetation, plants. I don't know, maybe this is an international Bible or something. But again, this is you bringing forth grasses. And the Bible already makes reference to these grasses being people. Okay? These are the herbages or herbages. Okay? These are the flourishings and the creeping things that crept into the land and took a stand or a spot, okay, from the earth. Okay? And started to grow from the earth, whether literally from the ground, okay, or the people that are of that are the earth, or planting their seeds there and then that was weird, and then creating a subgroup or a sub race of people. Okay, when you look at these terms, it will tell you that vegetation, produce, also speaking of, just like they have been done in history, use reference to animals when they're speaking of certain different groups of people. Just like the coat of arms that all of these families that came over here had when they came here, these are the animals that we're speaking of throughout the Bible, throughout the text. Okay. Um, so on earth, bearing, okay, seed, okay, in itself upon the earth. So now these natives, like I told you, they're bringing two of each, groups of people. So that, like, let's say from Italy. So it'd be Italian men and women, okay? If we're talking about from Morocco or something, that would be Moroccan men and women, okay? In order to bring them here so that they can start their own and they can have their own seed inside of them coming out. And they will stick to each other, marry each other, and create these other people on this nation. And that is why I was saying, have them go in with these people. And then now I've given you every herb yielding tree and with seed within itself. Okay. And those are the family lines and the bloodlines that end up in places of power, positions of power, entertainment. All of these things are power because they have power either over this outside vessel or over your mental, okay, your education, all of these things, the jail, everything goes along with this nowadays, okay? All the war and all the killing and stuff, that was also a part of that, okay? So, and we all know that God was slewing and killing whole villages of people so that his people can come and live there. Now, what kind of sense would that make to us, so-called black people, when that never happened for you? Now we're finding out that we're aboriginal to the Americas, most of us, and this is actually what happened to us. And then instead of talking about our story, they don't even talk about the native story. They don't even talk about the indigenous people story, okay? Rarely talk about the native story because, again, it is your story because you are the mother of all. The mother, okay? And I'll say mother because they kept the women around so that they can procreate, so that they can amalgamate and continue to create. All taking sustenance from the actual people of the earth itself, the earthlings. So mankind is something kind of like. So even when you're looking at this, you have to look at it like the American Aboriginal was the archetype of all of these living races here. But you had to die or be crucified on the cross in order for them to do that. Okay? So, to give light on the earth. And it was so. What are we talking about here? Use common sense and stop thinking of the text when you're reading it in the mindset that they gave you, which is the way that they need to look at it. You shouldn't look at it that way because it's not talking about you. I know we all want to feel loved by God. We all want to feel like we the people or somebody special in the Bible. Cut it out. All of these men, from what I've been able to track through history, using names, birth dates, family trees that match exactly with this Bible, they don't look anything like us. So, to give light upon the earth, again, above the earth in the open expanse. So again, it doesn't say expanse here, but I know that that's what it says. That this is when he said, let the fowl of the air, okay, which probably represented Germans and Spaniards and different people that have the some form of an eagle or bird or something on their family crest or their emblems or their coat of arms. That is what we're talking about. And a lot of those First Nations would have been other nations of darker hue. Okay. And they may be the famous people that you read about that were connected to this, that we actually learn about in school that may have done some things that were good for us, or it seemed that was what they were doing. Okay. And it possibly could have been something else. Just like today, when we look at our celebrities and you think that they're there for you, when they're doing all of their actions and all of their works should tell you otherwise. And then we look at our women and shame them for things when we already know how the mind works and how manipulation and corruption has happened here. And then we steady have our entertainment be something that shows us or depicts us in an ugly way, and we continue to support it. So who at this point in time, okay, and again, it's because you don't know yourself. You don't know who you are. You don't know that this is your shit. First of all. Second of all, okay, it's because we too busy. And the reason why you may not be able to see this and understand it the way that some of us are is because we have decided to give up all of that music that we once loved and made us feel so good, and give up all of those television shows, okay, in that entertainment, okay, that enters your soul subconsciously and obtains it. Okay, so we have chosen to give those things up in order to search and really seek, like the Bible also says. Okay, so it's a difficult relationship, because again, I don't believe in that, because I know I see. I'm using the information to see exactly what it's saying, and it's almost like the Bible almost wants you to see it, but we choose to be entertained. Okay, we choose to go shopping and do other things and keep filling ourselves with these worldly things instead of filling your head with knowledge of wisdom and using your own discernment. Okay? So above the earth in the open. Okay? And let the birds multiply on the earth. Again, this is all talking about the earth because it's all talking about you. And this is what they had to do in Genesis prior to anything, because there was already the earth here, meaning people of darker view in hue. And they had empires and nations with that were doing very well with all kind of septic systems, and everybody wasn't in trees like they want you to think. Maybe people were traveling and living in teepees later on, but prior to that, people had different cities. Okay, there were rich empires here in the Americas that they don't tell you about in his story, because it's his. Just like Genesis in the creation story, that's his. But it just so happens, in order to talk about his, he have to talk about yours as well. Bottom line. Okay? So, God said, let the earth bring forth. God bring the earth creatures living. Again, these are his living creatures. Those are the ones that are in the system, and you are not. Okay? So then we're talking about domestic. We're talking about like domestic and things like that, but and over the chattel or cattle, and over all the earth. Okay, and so then to fill the earth and subdue it, replenish the earth and subdue it, multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. And some of us don't even know this has to do with amalgamation. How else were they? They had to plant all these different seeds. They had to seed it, till it, water it, do other things, but all of it is still in a way the essence or the vicar of the earth. Okay? So subdue and rule over it. Okay? Living things that move on the earth. So these things are able to move. They're not stagnant. They're not fixed to the ground like you. They're able to move around. Okay? It's just simple as that. They're able to drive their car without getting pulled over for something silly and winding up dead. And people all of the world is looking at this and trying to say something. And like I said, some of these things are cool. Some of these things are not what we think they are. Some of these things are certain kind of like sacrifices, and they're different things in order to target our emotions. Okay, but at the same time, I don't know whether it had happened or not. I was not there. Okay, I can only look on, but it's to give the nation, regardless of that, is to give the nation and other people the perception that this is something okay. And people have the nerves to say, well, this person shouldn't have did that, and then this. Okay. So again, upon the face of all the earth and every tree. So again, we can keep on going down, but you can do this on your own. Okay? And the heavens were complete. This is after they end up taking all the power away from you. Okay? So let's go ahead and get into the good stuff. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, I'm hoping, you know what? Let's get a couple more, just because this is going to be part one. Wait, what is this? Common, country, earth, field, ground, land, nations, way, from an unused root, probably meaning to be firm. See, fixed. Okay, the earth at large, a partitively, wait, a partitively, okay, a land, okay, X nation, okay. So anyhow, thus the heavens and the earth were complete. Again, this is when God could rest in the seventh day, which I think has something to do with 1774 through 1776 and the moves that they made at that time. And then also, don't forget that later on in 1789 or 98, we got the first president here. But prior to that, these people had to trodden the land. Prior to that, these people had to trodden the land first. then bring these people over here in abundance. Once they had these people fixed and stagnant and worn down. Was yet in the earth and no, before it was in the earth and every herb, whatever, and had not sent rain on the earth. And there was no, he hadn't caused it to rain. Again, now that everything is up in the air here, they can rain on the earth. Enmity between their seed and her seed, they can reign on the earth forever. And we have been having our head in a rock and going with the religious aspect and following this text the way that they told you to, with the certain perceptions that they've ingrained into your mind by fear and all these other things that we don't even want to go over and think for our own selves. Okay? Just like we're going to read here. What happened? What happened in the beginning? Because we all already know it. When God began creating the heavens and the earth was at first. So when he began creating, when God began creating the heavens and the earth system, the caste system, or his firmament, okay, that what will rest on the backs of the American Aborigine. So they have you thinking, oh, we built this nation. Yeah, you did, because you built it long time before they came here. And anything that they have over there in Washington, D.C., and a lot of these older monuments and things were already here. They were just moved. The people were moved out and someone else moved in. Okay? So the earth, okay, was at first. It was at first a shapeless, chaotic mass. This means it hadn't been tilled, or there was not a farmer or a, like he said, he put the man there to keep it and trim it. And, there had not been a gardener or slave master or lord or whatever. Okay. And a chaotic mass was because we were trying to rebel, revolt, or fight against this that had come. Okay. Okay. So again, and there was no form because their system and their religious aspect had not been planted on the people yet. And from what I read, whatever it was that gave those people strength at that point in time before they were tilled or messed with or manipulated or mass manipulated was something that resides in each person. And then as a whole created a holy people of whole, not holy, what you're talking about, what your holiness. Okay? So it says, with the Spirit of God brooding over the darkness, hovering, sitting, okay? The dark vapors, okay? Again, this is it brooding over. This is it brooding over, okay? You can look at it how you want to, but the meaning, the definitions won't change. That's the thing. You haven't been given the proper definitions from jump, even with the dictionary that dictates what you see and how you interpret things. It grabbed a portion of the definition that will keep us following an agenda that was placed there by those men, mere men that we're talking about in this Bible: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. These are all founding fathers in the extension of those people. These are all people that have bloodlines that tie them back to the throne over there across the seas. And there are a foreign entity or a corporation that has planted theirself on your nation and slowly crept into it and broke it up and rained on it and flooded and killed, and fear and malice and all kind of things happen. And this is where we are today. Lying and stealing and covering and hiding. It's all coming out today. So now let's look at a couple of these. When it says when God began creating, let's look at A. Okay, shapeless void. And what does it say? Or from a lump of soil. Now, a lump is a big tight wad of something that is unbreakable. Okay? Well, it's stuck together until you start to chip away at it. Okay? from clods in the soil or from a clod of clay. And what we're going to talk about in Genesis 2 also is that is the dust. Because we're going to go ahead and use this, and we're going to go into Genesis 7, 12, and 13, I believe it was, and I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you something right after that. And it has something to do with this right here. So, again, I want to thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, or subscribe. Share, whatever you would like to do. And don't forget to come back for part 2. I'll see you guys soon. Take care.